Another great game for Tommy Pham, but the big story of the day for the Cardinals, Michael McGreevy's remarkable Major League debut. What's going on, everyone, and welcome into this edition of b-schaeff Daily. Brenden Schaeffer here with you. It is Wednesday evening, July 31st, 2024. The Cardinals win the series over the Texas Rangers on Wednesday afternoon. Another win for the Cardinals in blowout fashion, which has been a rarity for St. Louis so far this season. But over the past couple of days, suddenly a switch is flipped. You bring Tommy Pham in and, well, you can win games by a bunch of runs, I guess. I don't know. The run differential that we've made so much of throughout the season, it's getting a facelift for the Cardinals over the last couple of days. 10-1, the Cardinals win on Wednesday, and tonight on b-schaeff Daily, we will talk about the game, the breakout performance by the offense, and just the high-quality innings we saw from the Cardinals in the innings that they did score runs. They only put up 3 innings in which they saw the scoreboard change, but they scored crooked numbers in each of those 3 and beat the Rangers 10-1. The quality, fundamental baseball is really refreshing to see, and adding one guy doesn't suddenly change that, but Tommy Pham seemingly has provided the spark and the boost to, I guess, allow the other players to reach their potential and be at their best as well. One guy we need to talk about tonight, and we've mentioned our, general state of being impressed with him in recent weeks, but the full extent to which Michael Ciani has turned things around offensively and has become a real force needs to be appreciated. So we'll mention him, but the star of the game was Michael McGreevy. Makes his major league debut and exceeds every possible expectation that anybody would have had for him in this spot start on Wednesday. Goes 7 innings, gives up just 1 run. We'll talk McCheesy. I don't know why I call him that. I just think it's cool. But McGreevy was incredible on Wednesday, and we'll talk about Michael McGreevy and his fantastic outing and what Tommy Pham had to say about McGreevy's outing. He didn't know that for McGreevy it was a spot start. It's kind of funny when you think about guys coming over from other organizations and they don't necessarily know the ins and outs of what their new team's roster is and what the rotation looks like and who's the closer, who are the setup. You don't really know all that stuff until you kind of get ingrained in it a little bit. Reminds me of the other day telling the story of Lane Thomas asking about the Cardinals outfield situation, and he had asked, well, who's playing? What about Dylan? No, we don't really talk about Dylan. That's not really going on as much this year. Carlson, by the way, did get into the game for the Rays today. Did not do much at the plate. He came in for Richie Palacios, I think, because former Cardinal Richie Palacios had an injury. Anyway, I was kind of watching some of that this afternoon as well. But for Tommy Pham, he didn't realize maybe that Michael McGreevy wasn't a regular member of the rotation. Maybe he'd like him to be. We'll play some audio from Tommy Pham from the Cardinals clubhouse after Wednesday's win. We also have some roster moves to discuss as one of the Cardinals' top 5 starters did go on the injured list today. Lance Lynn, after having some issues in his outing on Tuesday with the knee, it ended up being the knee that puts him on the IL. So we'll talk about what that means for the rotation and catch you up on all the roster moves that have been and the ones that very well could be coming next down the pike. And, of course, we will get back to Down on the Farm with a new and improved intro for that segment of the show a little bit later on, as throughout several levels of the minors, there are various things that we need to make sure to touch on tonight. So that's all coming up on b-schaeff Daily. If you enjoy Cardinals content every single day throughout the season and really the full calendar year, the Brenden Schaeffer St. Louis Cardinals writer YouTube channel is the one for you. Click subscribe on the channel and check out the b-schaeff Daily podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, as well as checking out the b-schaeff Daily Gang membership if you'd like to get involved in that. The link for channel memberships is in the description for this video, just right below the video there. Click expand on the description, and you'll see the link to the b-schaeff Daily Gang membership, and hopefully the Discord link is updated. Anytime it's not, somebody DM me on Twitter at bschaefer12 because I have to update the Discord link every week. It is free to join the Discord, but sometimes I do forget to update the link. So that should be live. But if not, just let me know. Let's go ahead and hop into some Cardinals talk from this afternoon as the Cardinals got it done. 10-1 winners over the Rangers. St. Louis scored 3 runs in the second, 5 in the fifth, and 2 more runs in the seventh. And it was just a very, very pleasing game to watch if you were a Cardinals fan. because of the way that they went about producing their runs. Cardinals in the game had 14 hits. They did a little small ball. They found ways to rally when necessary. 6 for 11 with runners in scoring position feels like a mark that we haven't too often seen the Cardinals have this year. Above 500 for the batting average on the day with RISP. And they scored 10 runs today without a homer. Tommy Pham had a double. Contreras had a double. Those are the 2 extra base hits by the Cardinals in this one. But we see the Cardinals get things started with a rally in the 3rd inning. Base hit by Goldschmidt. A base hit as well by Tommy Pham, who went 3 for 4 in this game, has been en fuego since joining the Cardinals and really trying to force his way into an everyday role. Ollie Marmol said he's going to make it hard on me, and that's the way I want it. Tommy Pham's going to try to get into that lineup each and every day. Ollie Marmol's going to have the platoon splits that he prefers and various matchup reasons for who he starts on a day-to-day basis. But bottom line is Tommy Pham can play his way into a bigger role if he continues to perform like he has over his first couple of days back with the team. He had a base hit there in the 3rd inning. And then it started, when I talk about the fundamental baseball, Brendan Donovan, base hit to center. The throw comes in, trying to cut the run down at the plate. But Paul Goldschmidt with good base running scores from second. And they are able to advance the base runners. Tommy Pham to third, Brendan Donovan to second on the throw home. Cardinals just taking advantage of the little things and doing the little things that can help you win baseball games, because in the very next batter, Pedro Pages, it's a ground ball to first base. Tommy Pham, because he was able to get to third on the throw home that probably should have been cut off from Travis Jankowski in center field, it doesn't get cut off, and everybody advances up a base, as we mentioned. Now you've got runners on second and third, so when Pages hits the ground ball, Tommy Pham off on contact. He says, I dare you to throw me out at home plate. You make a perfect throw and get me out at home plate, and they couldn't do it. So Tommy Pham scores. And then you've got Michael Ciani doing a little bit of what he does. Seems like once a game almost these days there are these situations for Ciani to take full advantage of a bunt attempt, and he is happy to sacrifice himself there with a runner on third base. Donovan scores. So just like that, the Cardinals come up with 3 runs in the inning, and really all it is a couple of base hits. Yeah, you get the third one, but instead of, what was it the other night on Monday, we saw the Cardinals have 4 singles in an inning and only come up with 1 run because they kept going station to station. This feels like a completely different set of circumstances. Base hit. You got runners on first and second. Your third hit ends up scoring a run and then advancing guys to second and third to the point where you don't need another hit to score the rest of those runs. Fielder's choice by Tommy Pham, just being aggressive and forcing the first baseman to try and make a throw on him. And when he doesn't get it just so, it ends up being another run for the Cardinals. And look, I mean, that was one that if he puts it on the body there and makes a perfect throw, they're going to get Pham. But that's the point of aggressive base running that's savvy and smart and not just reckless. You're going to say, we're going to take the game to you. That's what good baseball teams do. And Tommy Pham, I think, is a key component of good baseball teams. And we saw that with, a variety of the things that he's done over the past couple of days. And then Ciani's bunt, man, I have no problem with it for Michael Ciani. If he's going to lay down a bunt to score a run, he's got that tool in his bag. That's one thing that maybe a little bit overlooked in today's game, to think that guys are going to be able to lay the bunt down in those kind of sacrifice squeeze situations. I think they went with the safety squeeze on this one. It wasn't that Michael Ciani was going to get a guy out at home plate if he didn't lay the butt down, but the safety squeeze ended up working just perfectly, and Ciani darn near beat it out at first base. Didn't, but that makes it 3-0, and that's just what we're talking about. The kind of things that as recently as Monday we weren't really seeing the Cardinals do, and then in this game it happened. 5th inning, Michael Ciani starts the party again, another base hit. Wilson Contreras with the double makes it second and third. Base knock by Alec Burleson. Like, it was fun to watch the way the Cardinals were able to string rallies together, and that chased Andrew Heaney from the game. And then a base hit later on in the inning by Arenado. Tommy Pham drives in a couple of runs with a double, and then we saw Brendan Donovan come up with another one later on in the inning, and that's how they end up with 5. And it's just rallies. It's not the home run ball. I know that that's something that Cardinals fans at times in the past have harped on. Oh, they can only score with the home run, and they're not really a home run hitting team. That's not a very good recipe. Well, it was not the concern or the case today for the Cardinals, as they were able to come up with a variety of ways to get the job done, and that was kind of cool to see. You had Tommy going 3 for 4, scored a couple of times and had the 2 runs driven in. Donovan batting way. I mean, he's batting down in the lineup at the 7 spot today and doesn't make a difference to Brendan Donovan. 2 for 3, 3 runs driven in, scores a run as well. Arenado was 2 for 4 with 2 runs scored. Alec Burleson batting in the 3-hole today. They had a little bit of a different looking lineup, did the Cardinals, where for a lot of the times we have seen Ollie Marmol try to deploy the right, left as far as he can get it down in the order. But when you now have Tommy Pham in the mix, you can be a little bit more right-handed heavy than we've seen the Cardinals previously, and that was certainly the case. When you have Andrew Heaney on the mound, they don't start Lars Nootbaar, they don't start Nolan Gorman, and that ends up being something that worked out just fine for the Cardinals. So they went Wynn, Contreras, Burleson, so you go right, left, and then Arenado, Goldie, Pham was 3 righties in a row, basically just daring Andrew Heaney to get out that murderer's row, which I think at this point it's not totally unfair to say something like that about this Cardinals lineup. Goldie was 2 for 4 today as well. You get up over that 700 mark with the OPS for Nolan. He's at 703. Goldie's up to 678. You could squint and see a world in which this lineup ends up being pretty capable 1 through 9. I'm going to rattle off some OPSs for you, and you tell me where they need to improve. Wynn 734, Contreras 890, Burleson 782. Nootbaar came off the bench in this game late, 725. Arenado 703. Gorman came into the game late, pinch hit opportunity, didn't convert, but his is up to 687. You'd like to see him above 700, and you'd like to see Goldie above 700. He's at 678. Carpenter, by the way, is above 700 at 714. Pham is a 738 for the season, but for the Cardinals, it's more like 7,380. Donovan's at 723, and then Pages 634, which is, what it is. He had the long hitting streak snapped. Michael Ciani, 2 for 3 in the game, a couple of RBIs and a run scored. His OPS is up to 617. For the longest time, I said if Michael Ciani can just have that OPS, begin with a 6, you're going to find an everyday player that is extraordinarily valuable for the St. Louis Cardinals, and that is exactly what Michael Ciani has done. But if you look at the numbers recently, you might still be sitting there going, okay, this guy's raving about a 617 OPS. Who cares? Why are we losing our minds about that? Well, we know the Cardinals want to have Michael Ciani in there for his defense, and if you can be not a complete black hole at the bottom of the order, because he's going to bat ninth, he's got some speed and can sort of act as that pseudo second leadoff man, but typically when you think about guys with that skill set, either they get on base enough to be a leadoff man or they don't, so they bat ninth. Tommy Edman was often in that trap with the Cardinals. Yeah, he could bat leadoff, but his on base is really not high enough to do it, so bat him ninth because he's got some speed, and when he does get on base, you can maybe steal a bag and try to do some creative things. Ciani is really settling into that role pretty well. But listen to these numbers recently. MLB.com breaks it down last 7, last 15, last 30 games. Last 7 games for Ciani. 9 for 21. He's got a 429 average. That's a 478 on base and a 476 slug. I mean, that's a 950, 960 OPS. But that's 7 games. Let's not get carried away. 15 games. He's hitting 361 with a 425 on base and a 389 slug. So, yeah, obviously the power is his deficiency, but he doesn't have to be that type of guy for the Cardinals. But even a 425 on base and a 389 slug computes to, 810, 820 OPS. He's above 800 for the last 15 games on his OPS. That's Michael Ciani we're talking about, who was, in the 500s on OPS for basically the entire year until the last handful of days. The last 30 games, this is what Michael Ciani has brought to the Cardinals offensively over his last 30 games. He's hitting 338 with a 370 on base and a 403 slug over his past 30 games. It's a 773 OPS. Michael Ciani, with a full season of a 773 OPS, probably steals 40 bases because that would indicate he's getting on base enough to do what he's capable of doing on the base paths. That's like a 5 or 6 wins above replacement player at least for the season. I'm not suggesting he would be able to keep up that pace for a full season, but I do think there is an element of Michael Ciani coming in, not somebody that was, you're going to be very considerate of being a legitimate factor on this Cardinal team, but as he gets more comfortable, he continues to lean into the things that he does well, and we're seeing the best version of Michael Ciani right now. Just for anybody who may be wondering, his wins above replacement per Baseball Reference is just 1.0 for the season before today. I bet that number ticked up a little bit with today's performance, 2 for 3, and the RBIs run scored. But I would say that that's reflective of an OPS that's right around 600. With a 770 some odd OPS, Michael Ciani would be a 5-win player over 162 game pace, at least a 5-win player, probably closer to 6 is going to be my guess. Can he even be a 650 OPS the rest of the way? Could he be a 675 OPS the rest of the way? Again, last month plus, he's been 770. So for Ciani to be doing this at the bottom of the lineup, first of all, makes life even more difficult on Ollie Marmol if he's trying to find ways to get Tommy Pham in that lineup today. It was left field, but that just may mean Lars Nootbaar is the guy that honestly gets boxed out a little bit. Lars Nootbaar's got the 725 OPS. That's about 100 points higher than what Ciani is, even after this recent surge. But I could say that there's a case to be made for Ciani playing as well as he does in center field, a left-on-left matchup. You don't necessarily have to have Nootbaar and Gorman in there. Could they find their rhythm, the St. Louis Cardinals, that is, maybe leaning a little bit more into the platoon splits and the types of things that could benefit you now that you have the luxury of doing it? Because previously, the Cardinals and Ollie Marmol just didn't really have that luxury because they didn't have any legitimately threatening guys off the bench, and now you kind of do. This season, Nootbaar's got a 780 OPS against righties, but a 602 OPS against lefties. Yeah, I mean, there's a case to be made for Ciani just playing because you know what you're going to get from him defensively, and if the alternative of having Nootbaar in there is not one that's going to bring you very much success anyway at the plate over the course of time against lefties, like if that's the matchup that you're talking about, maybe you just roll with Ciani as more of an everyday player. Like I thought when they added Pham, it would make sense to be able to add him into a platoon scenario, but maybe not. Now, you look at the splits for some of the other lefties on this team. That's why the Cardinals have the deficiency they do against left-handed pitching over the course of the season, which maybe Tommy Pham instantly comes in. You get Arenado and Goldie a little bit hotter, and maybe that's not going to be an issue anymore. But like I look at Alec Burleson as well. He's got an even larger sample against lefties this year than Newt does. He's hitting with a 522 OPS against lefties, 885 against righties. It's okay to maybe make Burleson more of a platoon guy as well. If there's 1.5 lefty starters, or let's say 2 lefty starters per week, I'd say you can certainly sit Burley in one of those games and Nootbaar in the other. And then you've got whichever guy it is coming off the bench taking a huge at-bat against a righty reliever because Ollie Marmol typically has a really good handle on when and how to bring guys in and to make sure that those matchups end up coming to fruition. He can stagger the lineup in such a way that he knows that spot could come late in the game if you've got a Burleson coming off your bench or a Lars Nootbaar coming off your bench. So, and today Lars Nootbaar came in as a defensive replacement for Burley late. So there are little things that Ollie Marmol has been able to do to find a way to gain an edge. And I think now having Tommy Pham in the mix, one guy, can he make that much of a difference? Yeah, I think that's possible that he could. Because you're thrilled to start Tommy Pham against the lefty. I even thought he was too low in the lineup coming into today, where Arenado was clean up, Goldie was 5, and Pham was 6. You're like, maybe Pham should be even higher against left-handed pitching with the way that he's performed this year. But batting in that 6th spot, he did everything the Cardinals could have hoped with his 3-for-4 game, and the offense just continues to surge. Now, hopefully they can keep this momentum going into Chicago, Wrigley Field, starting on Thursday night. We'll see if the momentum carries over. I always feel like these, once you get into the summer months, whether it's June, whether it's July, or an August series at Wrigley, those are the types of series that could be measuring stick series for the St. Louis Cardinals. Something always happens when you go up to Wrigley, and if you go there for 4 games, well, you're just inviting it to be all the more likely that something wild is going to take place. Could this be the launching off point for the Cardinals? I know fans hate when I use that language because they say, oh, you just won a couple of games. Why are you acting like they won the pennant? That's not what this is, but y'all could tell that the team has been different the last couple of days, right? There is a different energy to this Cardinals team when you're winning 8-1 over the Rangers, 10-1 over the defending champion Rangers. I know they're not the same team this season that they were last year, but it's something, man. It does feel different. And watching Michael McGreevy today felt different as well. How about that guy? 99 pitches, 7 innings, 1 run allowed, 5 hits, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, no homers. The 1 run that he did give up didn't come until later on in the outing in the 6th. And I think he gave up 3 consecutive singles, and they weren't even particularly well struck. He was getting hit kind of hard at the beginning of the outing, but by the time you got to that inning where the Rangers scored their run, it was just like, all right, some bloopers get in and decently struck, but just not near any fielders. And it was not the type of contact that you really were all too concerned about. And I guess Ollie Marmol must not have been concerned at all, because when he gets out of that sixth inning at 86 or 87 pitches, I thought, okay, Michael McGreevy, 6 innings, 1-run debut. I mean, that's pretty damn good. But the Cardinals were up 8-1 at the time. So Ollie said, F it. We're going for it. He throws the 7th inning as well and has no problem breezing through it on the 12 pitches, 13 pitches, whatever it was. Finishes the day at 99. Pedro Pajes talked about it after the game and said, you're nervous, right, for this? And McGreevy said, no. And he said, you're lying. There's no way you're not nervous. But then he said when he got out there, man, he looked calm, looked cool, looked collected, and knew the job that he had to do. So props to Michael McGreevy. And here's the funniest thing that I think happened post-game. We'll play this audio courtesy of Bally Sports Midwest. Tommy Pham, being asked by Jim the Cat Hayes about the outing by McGreevy, didn't seem to be aware that this McGreevy guy wasn't a regular for the Cardinals this season.
Tommy, you're a veteran guy. You get a kick out of seeing a young guy like McGreevy come up, spot start, and pitch as well as him.
Really, that was a spot start? Man, we got to try to keep him here then. If he goes 7 innings against, a lineup like that.
That's just too good from Tommy Pham. Oh, really? Is a spot start? Well, we should keep him here. I mean, that is what we have missed about Tommy Pham in the post-game interviews. I'll play a little bit more from him because Tommy continues to kind of discuss the day.
He could help us win.
He looked, I think there was a little turbulence in 1 inning, but he looked totally poised making the big league debut.
Yeah, I liked what I saw. He attacked the strike zone, worked quick for us, which is huge. We have a quick inning. He goes out there and he's throwing strike one. That's big.
So Tommy Pham impressed with Michael McGreevy. Anybody that saw him pitch today should have been impressed by him. Some of those StatCast exit velocities early on in the game, I'll admit, you're kind of looking and going, okay, McGreevy's getting away with it. When is the other shoe going to drop? But he really did seem to settle into the outing as he went along, was very impressive in 7 innings of work. And I counted him out with my tweet after 6 and said, man, what a debut. Hell of a debut by McGreevy. And he didn't come out after 6 innings. Just remarkable stuff. I do want to play that clip courtesy of Bally Sports Midwest from Pedro Pajes talking about the very impressive outing by Michael McGreevy, who, of course, Pedro is pretty familiar with from their time down in the minors. They both started the season at AAA, and now both of them here at least for 1 day in the big leagues.
No, it was a good one for sure. I don't know if it was a little extra. It was special for sure. He had a great day out there, man. He came up here, did what he had to do, pitched a very good ball game, was out there just attacking these guys. Very happy for him. He's worked a lot, so it means a lot.
You've caught him before, so you know his stuff. Is this the kind of pitcher that you've seen down in the minor leagues? Because his stuff was outstanding.
Yeah, when he's on, man, his stuff is good. He's that sinker, man. If he lives in the bottom of the zone like he did today, he's going to be in a very good place. Being able to mix the curveball, the slider, the cutter, changeups, just being able to mix all his pitches, being able to work them back door and stuff like that. It's just huge for him, and he went out there, did exactly that today. I had fun out there, and very happy for him, honestly.
When you see a young pitcher, sometimes you can pick up signs that they may be a little nervous. He looked like a cool customer.
Yeah, man, I asked him before the game, I was like, you a little nervous? He goes, no. I was like, you're lying. You're lying. Everyone's nervous. But he acted cool out there. He got in his own little rhythm, and he likes to work fast, so I knew that. We just started going. Once he starts going, we got to go fast with him. And he just kept attacking these guys, going pound the zone, and it worked out for us. He threw a hell of a ball game. Good for him. Happy for him and his family to enjoy it today, and good for the ball club. That's what we needed out of him, and he did a good job.
It was funny that Pedro mentioned there seeing McGreevy work fast, because that was something I kind of noticed about his mound presence as well. And I think I saw a tweet that somebody said kind of remind him a little bit of Adam Wainwright. And I actually, for as much as that could be an easy thing to make fun of, I don't totally disagree with that. Like a young Waino just getting out there and wanting to say, hey, I want to sort of establish that I belong here, and I'm going to take the ball and I'm going to get back on the rubber. I'm going to work quick. I'm going to mix pitches. I've got the curve that I'll throw in there. I'm not saying this guy's going to turn out to be Adam Wainwright, okay? Slow down. But I could see a little bit of just the stylistically, he had that sort of purpose to him out on the mound of, I want to show that I'm not out of place here when I take the ball and take command of this game. I was very impressed by McGreevy. I thought this of him from the times I've seen him in spring training. And so to see the numbers that you look at, you look at his baseball reference page and say, well, 4.5 ERA the last couple of years in AAA, feels like he's sort of stagnated there in Memphis, and maybe that's all there is for this guy. But every time I saw this guy previously in spring, I thought this guy's got moxie. I like the way he carries himself. I like the quiet confidence that he exudes. I don't know if the stuff is going to be major league level stuff. Like, that was sort of the knock on McGreevy, even going back to draft night when people said, oh my gosh, they drafted, another Dakota Hudson, was sort of the thought. But I think McGreevy's got, it's just a little je ne sais quoi, right? To go a little French on you. I don't know for sure that he's going to be a viable middle of the rotation arm at the big league level for a long time in St. Louis. If he is, first of all, the Cardinals miscast him and didn't see it, because I think for months and months at this point, the Cardinals have sort of been writing McGreevy off a little bit. Not to say they weren't going to be willing to give him the shot when the time came, but they weren't itching to give it to him, right? Like, I think internally they sort of thought, yeah, this guy might be more pitch to contact, and maybe he turns out to be a reliever that can get you a double play ball, that kind of thing. Kept the Rangers on the ground today for sure. I just don't know how confident the Cardinals were coming in that McGreevy was going to light it up, right? I don't think anybody really saw that coming. And he's kind of got that attitude to him that's like, that's fine. You can think what you want about me, and then I'm going to go out and show you what I do and own it. And I do. I think McGreevy did a nice job of owning it today. He could come out the next time he gets a chance and throw 4 innings and give up 6, and it wouldn't shock me, just because it is very hard to replicate success at the big league level if you're a young player. But I was impressed by him, not though to the extent that I expect he's going to stay with the team. I still do think he gets sent back down to Memphis, which would have been the original plan. I think he goes back down on Thursday because they have to activate Eric Fetty. You're going to probably see the roster move that was made today to bring up Ryan Ludus and send down Chris Roycroft. I think you're going to end up seeing Ryan Ludus probably go back down. He pitched 1 inning today. They used JoJo in the 8th, which was a little bit interesting in a blowout game, but maybe he just needed the work, and he only threw 10 pitches, so no issues there. Ludus got an inning of work, and he'll probably get sent back now that Sean Armstrong is going to be making his way to the Cardinals if he's around by tomorrow. I think they have 72 hours post-trade, and that'll only be 48 hours, but I assume he'll be meeting the team in Chicago, and so Ludus probably goes back down. Roycroft pitched yesterday. He pitched in the game on Tuesday, a couple of innings, scoreless innings, and just kind of was on the wrong end of this one because the Cardinals needed the extra protection. They wanted to have Ludus there in case McGreevy doesn't go 7. But when he goes 7, you only need 1 inning from Ludus, and nobody else but Romero has to even throw. That's a great setup coming into this Cubs series. And again, these are the kinds of luxuries the Cardinals and Ollie Marmol just have not had this year, where the Cardinals lineup has not been producing to the extent that you're able to get big leads. And then we haven't seen the starting pitching and the bullpen necessarily always hold those big leads when the Cardinals do have robust outcomes offensively. You can think back to one of the Lance Lynn games. I think it was Miami when they scored a bunch of runs, but then he wasn't able to keep it there. And it's like at that point, you're up big. You got to get the guy through 6 innings or so, and the Marlins make their way back into the game. Those types of games have hurt the Cardinals because of the way that it forces you to use your bullpen and overextend. In this game, though, McGreevy goes 7. I mean, he did everything you could have hoped to see. Like I said, replication of that is not going to be the easiest thing, but I'm excited to see what he might be able to do in another opportunity. I just don't think it's going to come imminently. I think you're going to see Palante stay in the rotation, and you might say, what are you talking about? Yesterday, you talked all about how Palante was going to be the odd man out in the rotation very soon. Well, Lance Lynn is officially on the injured list, and he goes on the IL today with right knee inflammation. That news coming before the game Wednesday, and it was the roster move to get McGreevy on the active roster. The 40-man roster move is Jacob Boziokovic, that never did get a chance to pitch with the Cardinals during his big league stint. He's off the 40-man, was DFA'd. Probably will clear waivers, and as long as he accepts the assignment, which he's already been in Memphis, so I don't know why he wouldn't, unless he just thinks it's the end of the road for him with this organization and would ask for his release. But I assume he'll be back in Memphis, and maybe at some point we'll get another chance. Kind of sucks for him, though, because he is 30 years old, and not to debut when you did get that random little fluke happenstance of being able to be with the big club for a couple of days. To not get to pitch is probably a bummer there, but that was the roster move, the 40-man spot that you knew was going to be pretty flexible to get McGreevy on, and they had to get McGreevy on anyway eventually. Now the question, though, is, like, did he do enough to maybe keep his spot? I just think the natural thing is going to be to have Palante maintain his spot in the rotation. Cardinals will go back to a 5-man rotation eventually after this, kind of completing this time through, where we know they said it was going to be a 6-man, and we said, well, technically it's a 7-man because you had Palante pitch on Monday, and there will be 7 different starting pitchers from Palante to Lynn to today was McGreevy. The 4th one will be Sonny on Thursday. Fedde goes Friday, and then I can't remember if it's Gibby and then Miles or vice versa, but those guys will be Saturday, Sunday. And that's, 7 consecutive starters who are different. But after that, it should loop back through, and we would then see, Palante come back again, and I think you'll be back down to a 5-man rotation. But what you learn about the McGreevy start today, or what you learn from it, rather, is that he's an option. You don't have to throw Libby in these spot starts anymore. You can try and cater your situations a little bit to say, hey, McGreevy's on the 40-man. He did really well the first time. If it's close to being his turn, hold him back in Memphis, and we can use him at the big league level. And that was something that, for whatever reason, the Cardinals were so dang hesitant to do. And now that they've done it, bygones are bygones, and maybe they should have done it sooner, but they have done it, and now you learn. He's at least viable. He's capable. I'm not saying he's going to go out and throw 7-1 every single time he starts at the big league level the rest of the way in his major league career, but I do think the Cardinals just had some fear of, like, if we throw this guy out there, he could get shelled in game 1. He could give up 5, 6, 7 runs in a short amount of time, and then you're really up a creek without a paddle when it comes to the bullpen. To me, there was that risk, and still could be that risk the next time he pitches. But like I said, there's a lot to like about McGreevy rather than focus on the things that hold him back, which is potentially not having elite stuff or elite swing and miss potential. You focus on the things that you like about him, and that's kind of the mode that I'm in right now. And by the way, when it comes to the stuff of it all, it's not even necessarily that his stuff was bad. Like, his stuff was good today. He does have a very interesting pitch mix. I wonder if that's something that becomes less effective, more difficult for him to keep as an advantage over the course of time. The more major league hitters might get to recognizing his tendencies. But he throws 5, 6, pitches that are different, distinctive pitches, and he figures out a way to spot them up and sequence and tunnel and do different things. According to the, I guess this is from StatCast. I want to find this. It was Brandon Kiley that shared it. I don't really know. I'm not going to credit it to StatCast because I don't even know what it is. This looks like Thomas Nestico, TJ Stats on Twitter, was putting out the pitch summary and a lot of very good data-based information. And then Michael McGreevy's Stuff Plus today. This is the tweet from Brandon Kiley. Grades out better than every other starter not named Sonny Gray. Stuff Plus, which is just a metric that has been identified as a way to measure stuff. And I believe Eno Saris is involved with Stuff Plus as well. I thought I was going to get the information from the tweet here. Fangraphs has some stuff on Stuff Plus. I'm trying to figure out who's created the Stuff Plus model. I guess a number of different people have taken their crack at it. Let me take a look at this here. Over the past couple of seasons, modeling has become a prominent element of analyzing a pitcher's performance. Statistics such as Stuff Plus, created by Max Bay and Eno Saris, I got that right, and Pitching Bot have been the 2 most prominent pitch models. I'm just reading this article here by Adam Solorio to try to get an idea for exactly what it is. He's got his own model, but Stuff Plus, I think that's Eno. So anyway, the folks who are smarter with analytics and things of that nature, I always am happy to learn more about the things I don't know. But to just give you an idea, from Nestico at TJ Stats on Twitter, he said that McGreevy showcased his deep arsenal, tossing 6 different pitches 10 or more times, including good grading breaking balls and 3 different kinds of fastballs. That's got to be a little bit difficult. You might not have a lot of tape on a guy like that if he's not pitched at the big league level. So your scouting report can tell you one thing, but that's why I say it might make some level of sense that he had success in his first go-round. As more data is out on him and as more video is out on McGreevy, will he be able to continue to adjust? Well, I guess that's not fair to single him out with the question. Any guy could have trouble adjusting back to the league when the league adjusts back to him. So I don't know that Michael McGreevy is going to be unique in that, but he can feel damn good about his debut and what he was able to accomplish. and what he was able to give to the Cardinals today as well. I mean, that's a big part of it. They needed an outing like this where you have Lance Lynn's situation crop up. This was something that evidently the Cardinals kind of knew about even before the trade deadline, according to, I think it was Jeff Jones that put that out there today after being at Busch Stadium and doing the reporting. I was not at the ballpark today with a day game and my radio show being at 4 p.m., living about 45 minutes from the ballpark. Just is not very easy to get to the weekday day games for me. But if the Cardinals knew about that kind of going into the deadline, makes Fedde even more of an important addition because then it's not about Palante. The math actually begins to math a little bit better. And you say, well, if they had an inkling that maybe at some point Lance Lynn was going to need a few weeks, then it makes all the more sense to go get out a guy like Fedde. And then when you realize, you know what, if Lynn could go down, who's to say that one of the other guys couldn't go down too? Maybe let's take a look at this McGreevy. All the while, we can buy an extra day of rest for everybody else in the rotation. And it ends up working out pretty well, I think, now that you know, hey, McGreevy is somebody you can add to the ledger in case you need somebody down the road. It's something you didn't know and you found out today, which I think can be very valuable for the Cardinals down the stretch, honestly. Because now, instead of having to keep yanking Matthew Liberatore around and say, oh, you're a reliever, oh, you're a starter, we need a spot starter, McGreevy can be somebody who's now eligible on the 40-man, healthy, and able to be that, even if he goes back to Memphis. Next guy gets hurt. I mean, there won't have to be a 15-day window or whatever the window is to bring him back up. He'd be able to come back up right away in the case of an injury. So just something to keep in mind. Even if McGreevy goes down on Thursday, he did his job and he made the impression. That's really what it's all about. Graceffo's had that chance. Other guys have had the opportunity to come up for a very brief spell. Can you make the impression while you're here? I don't think there's any doubt that if he goes back on Thursday, McGreevy will go back knowing he made the impression he needed to make while he was in St. Louis for the one day that he was. As for Lance Lynn, though, and the nature of his injury, it's very interesting to hear that basically when you think about last night on Tuesday, Ollie Marmol saying he was impressed, surprised that Lynn was able to get them the 5 innings that he did, called it very impressive. Basically, he was dealing with this knee for a while, and it seemed as though the IL stint was inevitable. I saw some people say, well, if he knew he was injured going into the game Tuesday, why in the world would you allow him to start? The factor that doesn't really acknowledge, though, is this idea that the Cardinals don't have unlimited resources at AAA that they could call upon, and if they're planning for McGreevy Wednesday because they want to bake in the extra day of rest for the other starters, as they're losing Lynn, which was something they were kind of aware of ahead of time, you don't really have a lot of guys down there that are healthy and proven and able to be recalled. Guys like Graceffo, he recently took a comebacker. I'm not sure if he's going to be ready to go, but he would generally speaking be an option at some point if the turns line up and you need somebody. Graceffo's on the 40-man, so we could end up seeing him, but we'll see how quickly he's back into action. And then guys like Sim Roberts, he's hurt. Kloffenstein's been hurt. Like the AAA rotation, for as much as we've said stop starting Libby, and we've meant that, I do think the AAA rotation factors in a little bit because a lot of those guys on the 40 have not been fully healthy, and that has caused a little bit of a pinch for the organization, which is definitely something that is fair to acknowledge at this point. So I think that bakes into why you have Lance Lynn start Tuesday, even though you know he's compromised and might need IL after the game regardless. He wants to eat those innings because he's a good teammate and he's a guy that's a gamer and wants to get that done. So you let him eat it. And Ollie Marmol maybe thought in his head, we'll get 3 innings out of him, and Roycroft has to maybe throw 3 or 4 before we send him down. And as it was, Lynn got through 5, and Cardinals had a big lead, so Roycroft only needed to throw 2, still sent him back to Memphis. But Lance Lynn, don't overlook the job Lance Lynn did right before going on the IL with the 5 innings he threw on Tuesday, because with the conjunction of the Cardinal offense allowing some breathing room for both him and McGreevy, they've been able to line this thing up really effectively, winning 2 games and basically saving their entire bullpen for 2 days in a row. So Lance Lynn, we'll see how long he ends up being out, but that was sort of the thought process, and I thought it was interesting to know that kind of maybe that baked into why they were as aggressive as they were trying to get the Fedde thing done. They knew that Lynn might not be a guarantee to continue to take his turn every 5 days, so something to keep in mind right there. I think the Cardinals are in a very good spot, though, going into the weekend, and you're looking to get 3 of 4 from a Cubs team that you're just wanting to take all the hope out of their lives right now, right? You're wanting to finish them off. They basically were in kind of a quasi-sell mode at the deadline. They sold off, I know, at least a reliever. They swapped out Morel for Isaac Paredes, who's going to be a problem. I mean, he's a good player, but the Cubs are kind of stagnating in the last couple of weeks. They're 5-5 in their last 10, and that's because everybody in the Central is 5-5 in their last 10. Kind of crazy, but you don't have anybody necessarily trending too hot or too cold. The Cardinals, though, with 2 wins in a row, have the longest win streak right now in the NL Central, and they're clear of the Pirates by a game. Jake Woodford was picked up by the Pirates and started for him today. Don't think he gave up any earned runs in his start today against the Houston Astros, but there were some unearned runs. O'Neal Cruz has made, I believe, 5 errors, they said, over the series this week that the Pirates are involved in against Houston. That's not very good for the shortstop, who's obviously got a lot of talent. He's a big-bodied guy with just crazy athleticism, but he's kind of cost him. I just thought that was kind of a bummer for Woodford. But the former Cardinal is back in the division, and I think he's maybe taken the Martin Perez spot because he got traded away. So the Pirates kind of bought with guys like Brian De La Cruz, but they also kind of sold as well. They bought IKF, Isaiah Kiner Falefa. They bought him at the deadline, but they sold Martin Perez. So kind of interesting to see them try to play the middle of it all. But we'll see what the Cardinals are able to do. I think 3 of 4 at a minimum would be really nice to see from them at Wrigley. But if they split the series, that would not be all too surprising either, because it can be very difficult to win those 4-game sets, especially on the road. But without any further ado, we've talked enough about the game. I've got at least 3 different levels of the minors for the Cardinal system to talk about, so we should go down on the farm. It's time to go down on the farm. Brought to you by Hastings Layers Premium Eggs.
You'll be happier than a jackass eating thistle.
Huh? Don't ask, I don't know. That's what my guy Mark wanted right there for the Down on the Farm sponsorship, and we finally got in the recording studio and made that happen. So I don't know. Mark said it was from an old commercial he remembers. Mark, hopefully that brought a smile to your face because, well, it confused the hell out of me. Love you, Mark, and love you, Hastings Layers Premium Eggs, who sponsor the Down on the Farm segment. Let's go ahead and start with AAA and work our way down. I think the most notable thing probably happened at AA today, but there's also something down in Jupiter at Palm Beach that we want to make sure to call attention to. But the offense for the Memphis Redbirds had a nice game. They won 7-4 over the Durham Bulls. 2 for 5 for Jordan Walker. Couple of runs scored, couple of RBIs because he hit a home run, his 6th of the season for Memphis. Also somebody who hit their 6th home run of the season for Memphis, Victor Scott II, has 6 homers. I don't think I probably would have guessed that he has that many down there. We know he's been struggling this season overall offensively with just a 610 OPS down in AAA. But he had a home run today, and it was actually a grand slam that took the Redbirds from down 2-0 to up 4-0. Very cool to see for Victor Scott II, who I still think has a future with the Cardinals. It's just going to be one that he'll continue to have to grind out and become kind of what Michael Ciani has figured out a way to do on the fly by becoming a viable big league hitter that can handle himself and handle the bat. Victor Scott took a pitch that was way up in the zone, just kind of hanging there, and blasted it out to right for his grand slam. He's a fun player, an exuberant player, and we're hoping to see more of Victor Scott in the future. But pretty cool to see him and Jordan Walker go yard today for the Redbirds. 696 is the OPS for Jaywalk with a batting average of 243 down there in Memphis. I mentioned that the rotation for Memphis is hurting. They've got a lot of guys that are injured, so it was Victor Santos that took the ball. If I'm remembering correctly, he is the other pitcher that came over in the Tyler O'Neill deal in the offseason. Cardinals got Nick Robertson, and he ended up on the 40-man roster. But Victor Santos was the other guy, and he's now elevated himself to AAA. I want to check real quick on Santos. Yeah, that's where he's been this season, and I think he spent last year injured in 2023, so that's why no statistics for 23. Thought he had been mostly a reliever for the Memphis Redbirds this year, but now he's made, looks like 8 starts on the season and pitched pretty good. 5 innings, 2 runs allowed. ERA well over 6 for the season for Santos, but, continuing to get some work down there. Riley O'Brien's the name you want to hear about. 1 inning of work, 1 strikeout, all zeros. No hits, no walks, no runs. Good to see, and we'll see how soon O'Brien's able to get himself up to the big league level. He's got a 1.93 ERA down there in Memphis this season. By the way, speaking of Nick Robertson, has not been a great season for him down in Memphis. The ERA is over 8. Not really what you want to see when Tyler O'Neill is going to get MVP votes in the American League, but did have a scoreless inning. And Andre Gurnier picks up what I'm looking at as his first save, according to what I'm seeing here on the stat page, which I would not have thought to be the case, but I guess is the case. Gurriel had the 9th inning tonight. Ludus has the most saves on Memphis, so with him being in St. Louis, Gurriel steps in, gets the save, and had a nice outing. 2 strikeouts, zeros across the board. So that's what was going on in AAA. I want to talk to you, though, about Springfield next, because we got a name of a starting pitching prospect for the Cardinals organization that we've talked a lot about, and you're going to continue to hear a lot about, in my estimation. The lanky left-hander Quinn Matthews was very good tonight for Springfield. 6 innings, allowed just 1 run on 4 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts for Matthews. The numbers there in Double-A for Quinn, who's 23 years old, 6'5", 188 is how he's listed on the Springfield player page. 2.67 ERA this season in the minors with Springfield. And remember, he's been across 3 levels now. He started in Palm Beach, down in Jupiter, moved up to Peoria. At Springfield, it's not been quite as strong, 4.05 the ERA, but he obviously improved tonight to get the numbers to where they are there. 30 strikeouts, though, in 26 2/3 innings. Continues to be a strikeout fiend. I think he's going to settle in at Springfield. I don't know where he goes from here. It's August 1st now, so there's not a ton of time left in the minor league season. Could he get to AAA before the end of the year? Maybe. I would say continuing to dominate Double-A like he did tonight would allow for that potential, but just be excited about Quinn Matthews. I think that is certainly allowable, and I got to say, I'm mad about one thing because I play a lot of the fantasy baseball that I play on ESPN, and for the longest time, I was looking for Quinn Matthews, and he wasn't there. He just wasn't in the player system, so if he's not in the system, you're not going to be able to add him, but I'm like, when they add him, I'm going to pick him up, and they must have done it within the last few days, and I just didn't notice because now all my dynasty leagues, Quinn Matthews has been picked up, but if he's not picked up in a league and it's a dynasty that you're in, I would recommend going ahead and adding him because I think he is going to be a good one. The other note that I wanted to make for Down on the Farm before we get out of here tonight is J.J. Weatherholt, the first-round draft selection by the Cardinals this season, 7th overall pick in the MLB draft by St. Louis. They have assigned him where he's going to play for the time being, and that is at Low A, Palm Beach for the Cardinals down in Jupiter. They call it the Palm Beach Cardinals, but really I think the stadium is just Roger Jean, which is in Jupiter, of course. And Weatherholt, I believe, had a 2-hit game starting off on Tuesday. Today, I think he went 0 for 2. Going to double-check that for you real quick here. Yeah, 0 for 2 for Weatherholt in the game, and then was replaced at shortstop. So just kind of getting his feet wet a little bit there on Wednesday. I don't have any reason to believe that he was replaced due to injury. I guess I should do a quick Twitter search to make sure nothing crazy happened there. But my assumption would just be that he was taken out of the game for whatever reason one does. I'm seeing a video of him with the fly out to left, kind of slice one off down the left field line as a left-handed bat, but that's all I see from him today. So, yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything crazy to be concerned about with him just only taking a couple of ABs today. But I guess, obviously, always keep posted and keep an eye on that. But his first hit came off the bat at 107.4 miles per hour on Tuesday. As I was wrong about the 2-hit day. He tallied a base hit and 1 walk in his professional debut at Single A. So we'll see what Weatherholt ends up doing if he's able to have some success and move up the ladder a little bit quickly, maybe Peoria before the end of the season. But if not, I think you could certainly expect him to, at a minimum, start at Peoria for next year and should have Double-A within his sights before too long, as long as he progresses and as long as he stays healthy. Remember, he had the pretty severe, the hamstring strain, I believe, that was a grade 3, which is, I think it happened back in February, and that was basically, I think, why his draft stock dropped a little bit the way that it did, but then he moved up draft boards with coming back and playing some good ball for West Virginia in his junior season. His sophomore year, though, he was breaking records there. So if the Cardinals can get that version of him, they're going to be pretty excited about J.J. Weatherholt, who is playing shortstop for the time being. You can always switch him to another position on the infield later on. You might as well start him at the most difficult position and see how long he can last. That's my thoughts, and apparently it's the Cardinals' thoughts too. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the show. Guys, appreciate you as always so much. Make sure to hit that subscribe button before you get out of here. Hit like on this video and consider a channel membership if you'd like to send your support of the channel to the next level. The link to that is in the description. Appreciate you guys as always, and we'll talk to you next time on b-schaeff Daily. Peace.